Hello, 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 hello. It's me. I can't. I don't even want to attempt to do Adele because she's amazing and I am not amazing. So I'm not going to try any further than I already have, and I apologize for that failed, futile attempt at flexing the golden pipes, as it were. Anyway, thank you for joining me on yet another episode of what is quite possibly the world's greatest podcast, The Death Metal Disco. I am James. I'm sitting at a desk in my living room, and my cat is sitting on the desk in front of me under the microphone in front of the keyboard, somehow not rubbing her face on the microphone. That's a rarity. She usually does that the moment she gets up here. And it makes me worry about her and her mental health. And feline mental health is one of the higher priority items in my list of things to worry about, mostly because she knows where I sleep. And I believe that she is firmly capable of ending my life at any given moment. So that's what I'm dealing with. Well, she's now jumped down and she is cleaning herself, because that's what you do when you're a cat: is you sleep, you sit on keyboards and get in the way of things, you eat, you shit in a box, and you clean yourself. Those are the things that you do as a cat. And probably, really that's kind of just any animal, I think, any mammal. Yeah, this is a really great intro to this episode. I always say that I don't have anything to talk about, and I really, really don't. I have decided that I was going to sort of kind of wing it. I'm sorry, I was just scratching my nose. I had a really crazy itch in there, and I'm guessing it's from all the fucking hair that I just inhaled from the cat, because she's shedding as you do when you're a cat. This time of year, it is springtime. My favorite time of year, springtime in Colorado. It's windy. It's currently windy as fuck outside. I'm watching the two giant trees by the pool blow and blow and blow. The pool has been vacated because it's also very cloudy, and it looks like it might storm, but I think the storm blew over, and all the fine honeys, which I don't know if there were actually any out there today, but they've been out there in droves. Unlike last year when they did actually open the pool last year, they had, COVID restrictions and all that. So super limited capacity, social distancing mandates, blah, blah, blah. And now they kick that shit to the curb. So it's back to normal, which is actually okay right now, that there's nobody out there, because they're very noisy. And I switched the input on my computer that my interface is plugged in and made it so that it's not picking up every single little fucking sound, because this microphone is not that sensitive, but I don't know what it was about that input, the USB input. But holy fuck, that was picking up everything. So that's good. Back to a more reasonably controlled sound environment, I think, maybe. I don't know. I'm just making shit up. I just know that this thing is not peaking with every fucking word I say this time, and that's cool. I'm down with that. Fun fact, my band Empyrean Eclipse, some of you may know it, some of you may have seen or heard us or bought some CDs or merchandise of whatever kind, a hoodie, a onesie for your baby. We have those. Leggings, socks. I don't know if anybody's actually bought the leggings, but we even have masks. So t-shirts, various other things. We don't have a ton of merch, and we definitely don't have a ton that we had pre-made, pre-ordered. We use Teespring for like the leggings, the onesies, hoodies, and stuff like that, because no out-of-pocket cost for us. We just set it up through them. They take their little portion of the sale, and we keep the rest. And they host everything and send it off to local printers and ship it and all that. And that's cool. Like, I like that business model. I think they call it drop shipping. I think that's what it's called. I've seen that on the internet. And hang on, I have to yell at my cat. Hey. Anyway, cats have 9 lives because they're curious, and sometimes you want to end one of them every now and then. I didn't want to end her just now, but the thought did cross my mind, and I'd be lying if I said otherwise. So, anyway, Empyrean Eclipse, what was I talking about? Merchandise, we have some. You should know this, bandcamp.com. Oh, wait, no, it's empyreaneclipse.bandcamp.com is our main website. for the merchandise that we do actually hold. So we got some T-shirts, as well as CDs, both the first CD, Illumination I'm Done, and the latest CD that we came out with in 2018, Perdition. And we have those in stock. You can buy digital copies if you want to, or you could buy the physical copies because, I mean, I personally still like to buy CDs, and I think you should too, even though, most laptops now don't even have CD players or, CD drives. Cars, a lot of cars don't even come with them anymore, which is crazy to me, but also getting that shit readily available is easy to do, on a download, so whatever. I still like having the CD. That's just me. What I don't like, and I don't understand why they're coming back with such popularity, is tapes, cassette tapes. Like, vinyl's one thing. People collect vinyl, and I can get that. Except, if you're an audiophile, you should also know that most recordings these days are digital recordings. So, they're not analog, so it's not tape that it's being recorded to, and it's not edited in analog. And then having it done onto vinyl after the fact is I don't know, it's not the same thing. So when people say, oh, it's much warmer sound, no, it's really not most of the time. There are a lot of studios that still do analog recording and analog mix, master, editing, all that good stuff. And then you could still, if you go that whole process, analog to analog to analog to vinyl, cool. You've done the gambit. The record probably sounds fantastic compared to maybe the CD or the digital download. But going digital to digital or even digital to analog to vinyl, I mean, I have pretty good ears, and I would be hard-pressed to tell you that vinyl sounds better. But people collect vinyl, and I get that. Like, I don't think I would want to spend the money on that, but I guess you're buying the whole package when you think about it, because they make all kinds of crazy cool vinyl now, and I don't think we'll ever go that route, but maybe we will. Maybe we'll have some sort of limited release of something. I doubt it. Don't hold your breath on that, because I sure as shit am not, because that shit's got to be expensive to make, and because I mean, fuck, some of those vinyl records that I've seen for sale, like at shows, are like $45 for that stuff, and that's insane to me. And my stupid ass, I would lose it, break it almost immediately. I don't have a record player, so that's something to worry about. Record players, you got to worry about needles and connecting them to things. Although I've seen that you can connect them to Bluetooth speakers, which negates the analog quality of having a record. There's a lot of shit to it that, I think hipster culture has brought back a lot of stuff, and I'm not on board with some of it. Some of it I think is totally fine, totally okay. To each their own. I don't judge you too much. Maybe a little bit, but to each their own. Cassette tapes, however, I don't understand. And if I ever see somebody wandering around with a Discman, I'm probably going to slap them. Because even though I like CDs, Discman, Walkman, mobile CD players, those fucking things are terrible because you take 2 steps and they skip. So having one of those was the absolute worst. But I just don't get cassette tapes. I just don't get it. And the underground metal scene, there's a lot of that shit floating around. And if your band's doing it, cool. I'm not going to buy it. I'm still just going to do the digital download. If you're selling a lot of the tapes, that's cool. More power to you. I just can't, I can't justify myself as, we don't have a band manager per se. We kind of make our decisions as a group. But if we ever decided that we were going to make tapes, I would line all of us up together and hire somebody to punch us, and I think that money would be better spent than spending the money to make the tapes. Personally, that's my 2 cents that I would not spend on making tapes. But whatever. Tape trading used to be a thing back in the day, and that was before I ever got into heavy music, really. And I don't remember if there was any. I mean, back in the day growing up, I listened to the radio, so it's not like I never knew about tape trading until I actually got into heavy music and didn't care enough to actually trade tapes with anybody because I bought CDs. So, whatever. Anyway, my news about Empyrean Eclipse, my band, for which I stand in the front of the stage and I scream at you. Usually love songs about boobs, nipples, the occasional butt cheek. That's what I sing about. If you're unfamiliar, you should maybe buy one of our CDs. They come with the lyrics in them, and you could be like, oh yeah, he's talking about boobs in this song called Celophaeus, which is definitely inspired by H.P. Lovecraft and his love for nipples and all things mammary. Maybe not. Maybe it's total sarcasm because I'm just talking out my ass, which if you've ever listened to this podcast is 95% of what I do. Anyway, the band. We are actively discussing and figuring out what we're going to do. We're going to record an EP. We thought about a full length. We have quite a few songs we'd need to work out to get a lot of them tightened up before we can make a full length recording, but we're going to do an EP. And unlike the last release we did, Perdition, which really is only 7 songs plus an intro track, but it's still right around 44 minutes, something like that. We're only going to do maybe 4 songs. I think we're going to do 3 originals and a cover, or 4 originals and a cover song, if we can get our asses together and get the cover song working. Because the cover song, and I'm not going to tell you what it is, the cover song is fucking dope. I will tell you, I'll give you a hint. The band who made the song, which we will be covering, is a super group, if you will, and Europe. That's not the band, but they're from Europe, all of their members, and they put an album out a couple years ago. I have not yet seen them. I was supposed to see them last year in May in Montreal or Denver, but because I wasn't going to see them in Denver because I was going to be out of town, I decided to go see them in Montreal, but then COVID, so that got canceled. And if you've listened to this podcast, you've heard me talk about them. So that's your hint. And if you can guess who it was, just let me know. You don't win anything, just my respect and thanks for listening to the podcast. But if you remember, you should let me know. Unless you're in my band and you hear this, because if you don't know what song we're covering, I'm going to take major issue with that. My nose really itches. But anyway, yeah, 3 or 4 songs, original songs, and 1 cover. And we're shooting to record late summer-ish. Derek lives in California, and he says that he works for Apple, so they're going to start bringing people back into the office for work, so he's not going to be able to work remotely all the time anymore. So that's something we have to consider. And then Rob, our bass player. We were playing with Pat Evil from Satan's Host, but I know he's alive. I think when Derek moved, he lost interest in playing with us, and he never said anything. So Rob was the original bass player for the band way back in the day. He lives in New Mexico, and he's an avid listener to this podcast. So, hey, Rob, how's it going? What's up, buddy? I'm excited to do a record with you. It's going to be super cool. Yeah, we're going to get in with Shane Howard of Son and Quartered Studios here in Colorado. If you have not heard anything he's done quite a lot. He is one of his projects. If you don't know who Shane is, Martryden. Martryden is fucking badass. I love Martryden. I think they actually recorded with Otero at Flatline, but maybe he did their last release altogether. I'd have to look at the album, and I don't have it sitting in front of me. But Shane is a ninja. Organocide, that was his project with Greg Burgess from Allegiant. And I can't remember who else was in that band because I'm ill-prepared, as I always am when I record this, because I sat on my couch for several hours thinking about whether or not I even wanted to record an episode, and then I decided, hey, dumb fuck, you should record an episode. So here I am recording this episode. But yeah, Shane has he has a great ear. He knows what he's doing. So we got to lock down some dates and finances because he requires half up front, and I haven't checked to see if I won the Powerball this weekend. Pretty sure I did, but I haven't looked. Maybe I should do that. If I do that, I'm probably not going to go to work tomorrow in Illinois, which I don't really want to do anyway, but, whatever. It is what it is. Pays the bills. And I like my job most of the time, even though I've been getting my ass handed to me lately. So, I'm so glad I'm hourly at least. So that makes it a little bit better. Anyway, we're going to try and get in 3 or 4 songs originals. I think we have 4 that are pretty solid. Lyrically and vocally still need some work because I'm lazy and haven't gotten around to writing lyrics for a few of them. But Ryan has some lyrics for one that are. I'm still working on vocal patterns just to get. He likes to write a lot of words to fit in with his guitar playing, and I actually had him break it down for me and send me a recording of him doing the vocals with the song, which actually helps immensely. And because I couldn't figure out how to cram everything that he wanted in there in the places he wanted it, but it made sense when I actually listened to him do it. So maybe I'll just let him do the vocals for that song. Just kidding. He's more than welcome to sing with me for sure, but I actually like the way that song's coming together. That's one that one of our least solid songs right now as far as the new ones we've been working on. It's called Grave. It's pretty badass though, and I think once it's tight, and then once we got Derek and Rob, once we can get everybody together and jam it out a couple times, which may or may not happen. I don't know with everybody, I don't know how the bands like Legion and everybody do it before they actually go into the studio. I don't know if they even rehearse together before they go into the studio outside of maybe like online Skype sessions or some shit. Maybe they just know their shit inside and out, and then they go into the studio, and they have a lot of time that they can work with in the studio. We don't. Shane is doing a per day charge or whatever. And, obviously if we're ill prepared, that's going to take more days, cost more money. So we don't want that. We want to be as prepared as we possibly fucking can be, but we're looking at the end of summer. So we just got to lock down the dates and pay him a deposit to hold those dates. So that's some good news. Maybe you get some new Empyrean Eclipse music in your life by the end of the year. And by your life, I mean my life. If you guys even care about it, cool. If you don't, that's cool too. I'm just happy to have stuff that I've recorded because it's a really nice feeling having an album that you recorded. Like on the last album, Ryan, our guitar player, his daughter, she has a little guest spot of a blood-curdling scream on our song Revelations Made Flesh. And the scream is badass. It's like one of my favorite parts of the entire album. And I don't know how old she was when she recorded it, maybe 11. And I don't think she can give 2 shits about that scream or being on that CD. Doesn't care. She doesn't listen to the heavy music, which is probably good because she's still young. But, she listens to pop music, and she's a kid. Like, she shouldn't listen to evil shit. Our shit's not really evil per se, but, yeah. Like, if I was a kid and I had some little guest scream on a record of any kind, I'd be stoked. That's just me. I'd be fucking stoked. But maybe with her dad being the guitar player, she's just kind of like, whatever. It's just another day, just screaming, whatever. If you listen to Revelations Made Flesh, it's towards the end. There's a little finger tapping picking section. Finger tapping picking? That's not even a thing. Finger tapping section towards the end of it, like in the last minute and a half of Revelations Made Flesh, and right as they come out of that, you hear this super high-pitched girl scream, and that's her, and it's awesome. I wasn't there when they actually did it, and then I heard it for the first time, and I was like, that's fucking badass. And she probably doesn't care at all that she did it, so maybe she will when she's an adult, or maybe, maybe when she meets her future spouse, and they're like totally metalhead. They're like, oh my God, that's you. And she's like, yeah, my dad made me do it. And they're like, that's awesome. And she doesn't care. Then there's arguments or whatever. I don't know. Probably none of that's going to happen. But maybe. You never know. So we're going to try and get in end of summer-ish. It should be good times. Shane's awesome. He's also a fantastic cook and crazy-ass carpenter. He makes some crazy cool-looking shit with his hands, and those are skills that I do not possess and makes me sad. Sometimes I can make really good Kraft macaroni and cheese, but he posts pictures of things that he whips up. I believe him and his brother live together, and he'll whip up dinner for them, and it makes me really sad that I don't live closer to them, and then I would crash their house all the time. It's probably better that I don't live closer to them. Yeah, it's looking forward to it. Plus, Shane's just a cool motherfucker, and I think working with him, I think it'll be very beneficial for us because, first of all, we'll be held to higher standards than just working on stuff for ourselves. Granted, working on the last album, Ryan and Derek are pretty big perfectionists for how they wanted things, and at some point you got to know when to stop, when to call it good enough. But yeah, I think having an outsider's perspective always helps. At least for me, vocal performances, when they ask, hey, do you want to double track that? You want to layer it? You want to go lows and highs, or lows and mids, or lows and lows, or whatever? Because sometimes I don't even think about that. I might have a good idea in my head of what I'd like to hear, or what I'd like how it to sound. By having somebody else listen to it through the whole process, and they're like, you know what, let's try it. And even if you record it and it doesn't, we record it, we play it back a few times, maybe listen to it, mix it in, mix it out, whatever. Figure out if it's going to sit. You get a couple different versions of a song or a section of a song, and if it works, cool. If it doesn't work, cool. Having options is never a bad thing. So I'm looking forward to it. We just got to lock it down. So that's the news for us. I hope there's news in your life that is also something to look forward to. Things are opening back up in spades. A lot of it looks like it's weird. I go into the gas station by my house now, and I'm not required to wear a mask anymore. And I still carry it, though, just in case, because if people freak out, I'm not going to get into some fucking shit with people just because they're freaking out. And you never know. Some stores probably still require a mask, at least while you wander around, or a restaurant or whatever. So far, I haven't been into any of those, but I don't know what the Illinois situation is like. I'll find out tomorrow. Flying actually in. I know I have to wear my mask on the airplane tomorrow still, which is fine. And through the airport and all that good shit. But I know I'm flying into Houston for a layover and then into St. Louis, and then I drive from St. Louis to Springfield, Illinois, where I'll be staying for the week, working in Pana, which is about an hour away. Staying at the President Abraham Lincoln Hotel. It's a DoubleTree, which I don't know. I hope they have a theater. Ha 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 ha. Too soon for presidential assassination jokes. JK, LOL. Please don't arrest me, Secret Service, if you're listening. If anybody from the Secret Service is listening, welcome. Welcome to the Death Metal Disco. So you've been listening to me ramble on for quite some time about this, that, and the other. So allow me to ramble on briefly about how I operate this podcast. There's lots of options for how you want to post and host your podcast and put it out into the world. I did a lot of research on mine, and for me, I decided to go with Anchor.fm. If you haven't heard of Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. First of all, it's free. That was a big selling point to me. Free is good. I like free. There's also tools for creation to help you record and edit your podcast from your phone or your computer or your tablet or whatever you're using. I find that to be effective. So we got free, we got recording and editing, both big deals, because they are. Anchor will also distribute your podcast for you. So it can be heard on Spotify, it could be heard on Apple Podcasts, it could be heard on Google Podcasts, and many, many more. That is a huge time saver because I don't have to go to each of those things to upload. So I like that distribution right then and there. And again, it's free. You can make money from your podcast, if you're into that kind of thing, with no minimum listenership. That could be cool. I think you should try it. It's everything you need to make a podcast, all in one place.
So if you've been on the fence about making a podcast and the only thing holding you back is how you want to host it or create it or whatever, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. It's worth it.
I have decided that in lieu of trying to bring my podcast to other people to try and have guests on the podcast, which having guests on the podcast in person is a great idea. I do want to do that. With my current setup, it's just difficult. I don't really feel like bringing people over to my apartment. There's really no place to host anybody for this to happen here. At least not any place that I'm comfortable with having people in my apartment. I just don't like that idea, and I don't know why. Like, just never been big on having people over at any of my apartments, really, ever. For a long, long, long time, I've always just been kind of about that idea for anything. But, yeah, unless they're girls and they want to, stare longingly into my eyes as I whisper sweet nothings into their face. Like, we should order Chinese or whatever. So what I'm thinking about doing, and not necessarily in this order, I'm thinking that I'm going to set up at least one interview with somebody. And I have to propose this idea to that person. And she and I have already talked a little bit about doing this. She has her own podcast. And she actually was asking me for tips and tricks on how to actually host guests and do things like Zoom calls and, Skype or whatever. And after talking about it with her, I was like, you know what? That's not a bad idea. Maybe just have Zoom calls with people that I feel like talking to on the podcast. And maybe nothing formal because, I'm not the most formal person in the world. So I'm thinking that maybe I'll have an episode soon, and I still got to talk to her and find out if she wants to do it, because she's got some issues where she loses her voice after about an hour and a half of talking at all, and I don't really think that, our conversation will be that long, but maybe a Zoom call where I just have a Zoom call and we record it and we put it into the podcast episode and I put it up. And if she wants to use it for hers, she can also use it for hers. But it's really going to be just more like a phone call. And for those of you who are wondering, I'm talking about my mom. And maybe I should call her and ask her if she's interested in it first. Maybe I don't know how caught up she is on listening to this podcast. I have yet to check out her podcast. I just have not had time to listen to any podcasts. Or I should say I have not made time to listen to any podcasts. So if you have a podcast and you're my friend and I keep saying I'll listen to it, I'm really sorry. I just haven't made the time to do it. So looking at you, Lost Chill, and my mom's podcast, which I totally fucking forgot the name of and did not look up before this. So I'll have to ask her if she's interested and maybe make that happen. But I'm also thinking, interviewing, I know a lot of police officers. I know a lot of dispatchers because that's the life, that's the life I came from, and still sort of dabble in, different world now. I know a lot of voice actors, like actual professional voice actors. And, I do voiceover work, but it's part-time and I would not at all call myself a working voice actor because I really don't go out and look for the work very often. I haven't applied myself. So, but I know a lot of people because I have networked with a lot of other voice actors, a lot of people in, different levels of experience. And, maybe, and since this podcast is literally about whatever the fuck I decide it's about, I can interview everybody, just random people about anything. And I'm not tied to a single fucking thing unless I decide to be for that episode. So, if you know any porn stars or anything that want to talk about whatever, like if they like to play Minesweeper on old Windows machines or, what it's like to get gangbanged, hell, send them my way. I'll have a Zoom call with them. Cameras on, cameras off. I don't give a fuck. I'll talk to anybody about anything. But anyway, that is my plan, is that I am thinking I'm going to do this. More importantly, what I do want to do, and I want to make this happen soon. I just got to figure out a date, figure out logistics, and figure out a way to do it without getting so it's people can actively spam the fucking thing. Is I want to do not necessarily like a live stream podcast, but sort of a live stream podcast. Like maybe have a Zoom session that is just open for anybody who wants to join. Like just block out an hour of a day and say, hey, I'm going to be hosting this live Zoom session and you can join. Here's the code that you need to join or the link or whatever. And if you want to join, you can join and you can talk and we can talk about whatever. And if you want to have your camera on, you can have your camera on. If you don't want to turn your camera on, you don't have to. And I may or may not do. It depends on, how beautiful I feel that day, which isn't likely to be a very high level, but you never know. Sometimes I'm feeling a little frisky, but we can just have, just an open call for people to come and we can chat about what the fuck ever. I generally stay clear of the politics and whatever, but I'm not opposed to having those discussions at all. But just like an open forum where people can come in and talk to me, talk to each other if they want to. Maybe we'll set somebody up with somebody else. I don't know that many single people. And odds are really good that I won't end up with anybody, but maybe having this Zoom call where I just say, hey, join my Zoom call and let's chat about whatever. Maybe I'll start a topic or I'll have a list of topics and get 3 or 4 people involved and we can just have a group discussion for a little while. And then afterwards, I can take it, try and clean up that audio. I have no idea what a recorded Zoom call sounds like really over, once I upload it to anchor.fm and what it's going to sound like as part of the podcast. But I bet I could make it sound halfway decent and then put that shit up and have maybe like an intro thing. Be like, hey, welcome to the Death Metal Disco. We had a live Zoom call and people joined and we talked about shoes or whatever the fuck we talk about. That's been something I've been thinking about for like the last 2 weeks, actually. And I think I really want to do that. Maybe every now and then. My friend Richie, he had the Power in You podcast, which I have that other episode from back in February that we did that was like 2.5 hours long. He shut down that podcast. His co-host and him, they had a little bit of a creative differences thing, and she left. And he was going to rebrand the podcast, but then he decided not to do that at all. But he still wants to do an entertainment podcast. So he's going to work on that. I'm sure he is. I haven't talked to him in a while for it, but so I think that's still going to happen with him. And I'm sure that'll be in person. Probably just go up to his house and record that with him because he likes to add, sound effects and music beds and stuff like that. And that's just not something that I do. But he puts a lot of good quality work into his stuff. But I think that's still happening. I just haven't talked to him about it in a while. But I really think that having people get together, even if it's on a Zoom. So if you want to jump on and we can talk about what it's like to host podcasts. I know people that have podcasts. The Crypt Keeper Horror Show. Not the Crypt Creeper Horror Show. Crypt Keeper is definitely not theirs because that's a trademark. But Crypt Creeper Horror Show. Horror themed podcast by Jay, the vocalist for Angelic Desolation, his wife. And then Sarah, I think she's now a full-time host on that as well. They talk about horror movies and they're really good. I've listened to a lot of their episodes and each episode they have basically a theme of what the episode's for. So are they talking about slashers? Are they talking about women in horror? Are they talking about, killer cars or whatever? They do a really good job with their podcast. I really like listening to their podcast. Plus, they're just cool fucking metalheads and I can get down on that. I don't listen to a lot of horror related podcasts just because, like I said, I don't really have a lot of time that I throw into podcasts listening because if I'm working, I'm generally listening to music if I can. That's just how I do because hard for me to work and focus on listening to what a podcast is saying. Sometimes if I'm driving, maybe. Really, I just need to make more time to listen. So if you're listening to me, I really, really do thank you, because I'm really bad about listening to podcasts. That's talk radio, any of that stuff. Sometimes I get into it. Sometimes it's really hard for me. But so that's the idea that I'm having. Let me know what you think about that idea, and if you'd be interested in being part of that idea. Again, either just being individually chatted up over Zoom, recorded, obviously, camera, non-camera, whatever. And then the group call thing, which I really think could be awesome. The whole not talking over each other portion, notwithstanding, could suck a little bit, just trying to control the conversation between multiple people. But maybe, limit it to 4 or 5 people, me and 4 or 5 people, because a Zoom call can host a whole bunch of people. And your mileage may vary with how well that's going to work out. But if you have a group call, maybe we call it group therapy. I don't fucking know. We can talk about anything. I'm really liking this. Maybe I want to try and get that done by the end of this month. Get one session done. Maybe one actual Zoom interview with somebody, probably my mom. I got to hit her up and see if she's down. Some of you might know who my mom is. Ginger Quinlan. She's a psychic medium by profession for many, many years now. Maybe just interview her, find out what life is like in ATL, because she lives in Atlanta. Yeah, I think I need to make this happen. But the group call, that's where I'm actually excited. Like, I'll be more excited if I find out other people are also excited to possibly be a part of it. So if you are, in fact, interested or not, or if you have any feedback for me, reference this whole group call live podcast stream, let me know. Drop me a line. Hit me up on text message, email, through my website, www.cummingsvo.com. Social media, Facebook, The Death Metal Disco, Instagram, Death Metal Disco Pod. Twitter is @DeathDiscoPod. I think those are the ones that I have, yeah. I swear to God, one of these days I'll remember to write that shit down and put it somewhere I can see it. That's what I'm thinking. So, me personally, I think that's a brilliant fucking idea. I know the girls in the Lost Chill, the homegirls, they're going to do little Zoom parties with some of the authors of the books they're reading. And I don't know if it's just with the authors and it's them basically doing an interview with the author, or if it's people actually joining the call, kind of like what I'm thinking about. I haven't asked them about it. I've seen some of the social media posts they've been posting for it, but either way, I think it's a really cool idea. I don't have a themed podcast, and having just an open forum could be very, very, very interesting. I know people from all walks of life, and could be very interesting as long as everybody keeps it civil. And if they don't, then I will keep it civil. And, I'm just going to try and keep it from turning into an audio version of Jerry Springer, because nobody wants that. Although I'm sure people do want that, which is terrifying. So that's my idea. I'm also told that the new Napalm Death album is fantastic, and that Rob would marry it. So I haven't listened to it yet. I need to listen to it. I just haven't. I recently found out that I can stream my iTunes selection through Apple Music, so that's cool. I'm really happy about that, and I just needed to share my joy. I shared it today at practice, and now I'm sharing it with you here in the world of audio stuff. So if you're listening to me talk about my Apple Music discovery that I can listen to my own iTunes library on there, just know that I'm late to the game, and that's because I'm not a big Apple fan at all. Like, I appreciate their stuff. I just don't do Apple. So thinking that I can get anything Apple on my Samsung Galaxy S20 Plus, that was new to me. So the fact that it works is pretty cool. I don't have anything else to add to this episode. I did think about bringing it back to the whole philosophical debate like I thought about last week or the last episode, but I opted not to because I'm in a good mood and I don't feel like ruining that. Still kind of riding the high. We had a pretty good productive practice today, and worked out some kinks and some stuff, and I can actually visualize us playing shows like we used to. Like, I've played at the Gothic Theater numerous times in my previous bands, the Mandrake and Legion. Misanthrope played there a couple times, And I love that venue. I love seeing shows there. I love playing shows there. I would very much like to play another show there. And I keep saying that if I ever win the Powerball, I am going to buy the Gothic Theater. I'm going to bring back comp tickets because comp tickets were the fucking shit for local bands. You know, if you're 21 and up, you got a comp ticket, you're in for free because you're going to fucking drink, probably. And then, you know, money from the bar, and then $1 for every comp ticket that gets used goes to the bands, and then the bands split that shit evenly, you know, whatever the negotiated terms were, and then some percentage of the bar. And I mean, when I was in the Mandrake and we played there with comp tickets, you know, you get so many fucking people that show up because it's basically a free show, and then they have more money to spend at the bar. It's, you know, people under 21, they pay $5-10 to get in because you're not counting on their, you know, bar sales, at least for alcohol. And it just worked out. We actually made some really good fucking money at those shows, and I miss those shows, especially for locals, man. Like, so that's my plan. Dear motorcycle, nobody needs to hear you. I don't know if you guys could hear that. If not, just imagine a motorcycle driving by right before I said that, so it's not totally weird. Anyway, if I win Powerball or Mega Millions, buying the Gothic, just know that that's happening. On that note, I am going to finish this. I'm going to edit this. I'm going to wish you all a very, very happy week. I'll be in Illinois, where it's sure to be hot and muggy, and I'm not looking forward to that at all. And I'll be out of my element again in the knowledge base situation because I got to switch my brain from one of our products to another product. And that's what I'll be doing. So I will bid thee farewell, and maybe on next week's episode I will also present more poetry because I got good feedback on the poetry from William Frederick Durst last episode. So maybe I'll bust out some more of my poetry library, if you will, which is just the internet. So let me know. Hit me up on the socials. You know where to find me. I love you all. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other.